The U.S. England game was yesterday morning. That was a thriller. I know a lot of people aren't big soccer fans, but that was a very exciting 0-0 game, in my opinion. Shout out to the U.S. doing their thing out in Qatar. It was also section championships here in Sacramento, section football championships. I watched my alma mater, Christian Brothers, unfortunately lose to Grant High School in the D3 section championship game, but that was a really fun day. And then, of course, yesterday at 5 o'clock, your Sacramento Kings took on the Boston Celtics. We talked about it a lot last week. I was very excited for that game in Boston. I thought that was going to be a real test for the Sacramento Kings, as it did prove to be. Boston being the number 2 offense in the NBA, and the Kings being the number 1 offense heading into that game. I think we saw that there's just a different level of talent for Boston, and they're just a better team. I mean, what they were able to do to the Kings last night was they've just kind of been doing to everybody recently. The Celtics are on an absolute tear, so it was always going to be a tough game. The Kings, it being the last game of their road trip, coming off a back-to-back against Memphis and Atlanta, it was always going to be an uphill battle. The Kings did battle for a good majority of that game, but boy, oh boy, once it got away from them, it was a boat race, and there was really no chance for the Kings to come back in that one. But we're going to talk a little bit more about that about the road trip coming up here. But let's just kind of go through the week and establish things. The Kings went 2-2 this week since the last time we recorded. Let's not forget, it feels like a long time ago. Last Sunday, the Kings beat the Detroit Pistons in Marvin Bagley's return. That was a fun one. Obviously, Kings fans let Marvin Bagley hear it all throughout that game. That was, I think, aside from what you feel, I heard a lot of different takes on if Marvin, quote unquote, deserved to get booed, or if it was kind of a bad showing from Kings fans. It was fun, regardless. In my opinion, as someone who was at that game in the arena, the hostility was definitely there. You could feel the intensity of the boos. It was absolutely some real anger and vitriol behind the boos, but to be a part of that environment, that's what sport is. That is what sports are. It was so fun it really felt like the crowd was in it, and you could feel that Marvin definitely was feeling that. So that was a fun game. Glad the Kings ended up pulling out that victory, made it closer than it probably should have been, but at the end of the day, you get the win. Similar story in Memphis, first game of their road trip. Me and Frank talk about this, and Frankie Cartoscelli, our Sactown Sports Kings insider, will be joining me in our next segment. Me and Frank talk about this all the time on our podcast in previous seasons with the Kings, where they would go on these 9-game losing streaks. Last season, they went on, I believe their longest was 7 was their longest losing streak last year. And it was just a matter of, like, it's at the end of the season, you look at you look at the Memphis game that they won, they managed to pull out. It's going to be a big win. It didn't feel like it in the moment. It did feel like the Kings hopefully should have performed better against the Grizzlies that didn't have Desmond Bane. Ja was hurt. He wasn't supposed to play until really that morning. It kind of quickly developed that Ja was feeling better and was going to give it a run in that one. But that's a streak breaker right there. If the Kings lose that game to Memphis, they go 0-3 on this road trip. They play Phoenix on Monday. They play Indiana on Wednesday. Those are 2 tough matchups. That could have been a 5-game losing streak. And even if it becomes a 4, at least it's not a 5. At the end of the season, it's all about, it was the big mantra for last year, stacking wins. Stack days, I believe, is actually what their phrase was last year. But it's about, at the end of the season, when it's, right now the Kings are only a game out of 11th place, and they are 2 games out of first place. So at the end of the season, when it's game for game, those wins of the win against Memphis, it's going to mean a lot. It could be the difference from the Kings having a home playing game to being on the road in Chase Center and potentially having to fight that uphill battle. So I thought the Memphis game wasn't pretty at all, but it was most important that they got the win. Atlanta was a completely different story. That was the second night of a back-to-back. I hate to feel like I'm using excuses, but it feels legitimate. They just look tired. It was the second night of a back-to-back, as I mentioned. Coming off a really tough win in Memphis, an emotional high, they just didn't have it. I mean, the shots weren't falling. They couldn't get any rhythm. And then something that we saw lead into the Boston game, the turnovers just became way, way too overwhelming. They played sloppy. Again, I'm going to attribute it to turnovers, but that kind of feels like a little bit of a cop-out. You kind of have to, the NBA is tough, and the schedule is the schedule. Everyone plays tough schedules. You gotta find ways to kind of pick yourself up from your bootstraps and perform better. And that game was absolutely for the taking. There were so many times in that game where it felt like the Kings, if they could just start hitting shots, that they would come back in that game, and they just absolutely could not. I think Mike Brown knew his team was feeling the fatigue. You saw Matthew Dellavedova check in that Atlanta game. You saw KZ Okpala check in last night in Boston. He played 20 minutes. We'll talk a little bit more about that later and some deeper implications for what that could mean. But I think Mike knew that his team was feeling it. After Boston, that was 4 games in 6 nights. That's a really, really tough stretch. He was trying to keep his guys fresh. And I think at the end of the day, Boston was a similar story to Atlanta where, they went down early. They did dig deep. They came back from when it seemed like they wouldn't after a rough first quarter, really dominated that second quarter. And then the third quarter was kind of the same story as what it felt like in Atlanta. I mean, the turnovers came back. Boston went nuclear. I mean, at the end of that third quarter, closing out on a 16-0 run, my goodness. I mean, the Kings didn't stand a chance at that point. It was, I believe they were tied 84-84 with 4 minutes to go in that third quarter. And then Boston just absolutely took over. As I mentioned, 16-0 run to end that third quarter, started the fourth quarter on a 14-4 run. And the rest was, and it was really over. I mean, by the time that fourth quarter, it was the mid fourth quarter, there was really no chance that the Kings were going to come back as the shots just weren't falling. An absolutely brutal road trip for them, I think, or a brutal way to end the road trip for them. Absolutely not how they wanted to play. And their offense was something that we had talked about endlessly for their 7-game win streak there. They were scoring 120 points a night. They were shooting above 50%. They were hitting threes. They were moving the ball around. They were tops in the near the top of the league in assists. And this road trip, the Kings absolutely regressed. And it was a big, big step back for this team. And it should have been expected. I mean, you can't, after going on a 7-game win streak, it'd be tough to get much higher than that. You were naturally going to hit some speed bumps, and that's absolutely what this road trip was. Just a couple quick numbers for you here. The Kings on this 3-game road trip shot 43.6% from the field. That is the same field goal percentage as the Houston Rockets, who are 30th right now in field goal percentage. So the Kings shot like the worst team in the NBA. Also from 3, they shot 29% in the 3 games that they played on the road here. 29%. The Lakers are 30th in the league at 30.6%. So the Kings for this road trip, this little 3-game stand here, were playing like the worst offense in the NBA. After, for the 7-game stretch, playing like the best offense in the NBA. Something there is not right. Either they're not as good as we saw, or this was just a huge slip from the team. I don't expect it to last. I mean, they were on such a high. The shots, like I mentioned, the fatigue absolutely played in effect into the shot making. They just didn't have it. And, you gotta brush those things off. And Mike Brown talks constantly about always being on that upward trajectory. Well, right now they're absolutely heading down. And what they got to do is they play Phoenix at home on Monday. You got to forget all that. You're back home. You've played well at home so far this season. They are 6-3 at home, something that the Kings have not had a home court advantage in a very, very long time, it feels like. This needs to be a get-right game for the Kings. They have Indiana as well on Wednesday. Those are 2 opportunities where I would like to see them try and split or even, dare I say, we've been bold on this show before, Can they win them both? Can they win them both? Phoenix is an absolutely tough matchup as they are third right now in the NBA in offensive rating, seventh in defensive rating, fifth in three-point percentage. So not only are they explosive like the Kings offense, but here's a noble concept. They actually defend as well. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Coming up next, I'm going to ask Frankie Cartoscelli, our Sactown Sports Kings insider, if he felt like this was a successful road trip. This is Kings Weekly right here on Sactown Sports 1140.
Nick Cattle saying start your holidays right with the amazing Napoleon Prestige line of outdoor cookers from California Backyard. My Napoleon Stainless Steel Pro Series gas grill, it's turned me into a pro. Think outside the kitchen this year and cook your whole holiday meal on Napoleon Gas Grill. Napoleon, they are the grills built to last, all made with premium steel that boasts quality. Check out Napoleon Grills today at any of the 4 nearby California Backyard locations. Always the best in backyard living. California Backyards, check them out at Napoleon.com.
Your local utilities are offering up to $11,000 in rebates to make energy-saving home improvements. Turn to the experts at Clark & Rush and Carrier, your rebate specialists. License 608005. These home electrification upgrades will lower your energy bills and put rebate cash in your pocket. We'll even do the paperwork. You enjoy the rebates.
Smart energy savings is what we do. Clark & Rush.
Call 916-609-2681.
Do you take pride in your holiday gift purchases? Or are you someone who just wants to get the whole gift buying ordeal over with? Hi, Doug Christie here, and I'm both. I do like giving great gifts, but I don't have tons of time to do so. So if you're like me, listen closely. Plus, I'll even save you 20% during the holiday season. I'm talking about Good Feet Arch Supports. Surprise? You shouldn't be. At last count, roughly 80% of all adults suffer or will suffer from foot-related pain issues. These tend to be active people and people working on their feet, anywhere from 35 to 64. Sound like anyone on your gift list? And during the holidays, when you buy a Good Feet Arch Support gift certificate, the Good Feet store will add 20% to its value. That's a 20% bonus free. And remember, Good Feet Arch Supports come with a lifetime warranty. So you're giving a lifetime of unmatched comfort, balance, and support. The Good Feet store in Sacramento, Roseville, Stockton, and Modesto. Online, goodfeet.com.
Hanley's Kia in Davis is having its biggest sales event of the year. Our November Black Friday sales event is here. Our inventory is growing daily. Don't miss your chance for great deals now on all new Kias. Get $1,000 off MSRP on the all-new redesigned 2023 Kia Niro Hybrid. Rated at over 50 miles per gallon. 10 to choose from at this price. Come check out Hanley's Kia's inventory of gas-saving models during our Black Friday sales event. Rio, Soul, Forte, Niro Hybrid. K5, Stinger, EV6 plug-in, Seltos SUV, Sportage Hybrid SUV, Sorrento Hybrid and plug-in SUV, and Telluride SUV. We offer zero down, special APR financing, and we can also help with any credit problems. Don't miss your chance. It's here, the Hanley's Kia Black Friday sales event. Hanley's Kia is located at 4318 Childs Road, just off I-80 at the Mace Boulevard exit in Davis.
$1,000 off MSRP on all new 2023 Niro hybrids. All financing subject to credit approval. All offers expire 11/30/2022.
It's Kings Weekly with Chris Watkins.
Yeah. Welcome back, I should say, to Kings Weekly with Chris Watkins. Joining us right now, you can see him on our Sactown Sports 1140 YouTube page where we are live streaming this thing. Frankie Cartoscelli joins me fresh off the Thanksgiving break. Frank, how was your turkey day?
It was actually a chicken day.
A chicken day.
It was a chicken day, which is kind of interesting for a lot of people I've told. Family wanted to go the chicken route this year.
I do feel like that's a much better route. Like, I mean, I don't think it's a hot take. Turkey is kind of very mid.
I'm
like,
very
it's
indifferent.
super average.
It's fine. We a year ago. Sorry, everybody that likes traditional Thanksgiving. We had spaghetti last year.
Oh my god.
No Italian jokes either. I mean, it's just we decided to have spaghetti last year, and this year we got back into having the other usual Thanksgiving sides. We had them, then we had chicken. And yeah, I actually prefer it.
That's like rotisserie chicken, or like did you do the same process as chicken?
I mean, my grandmother was nice enough to prepare it, so I don't know what she did prepare. I'm not sure if it was rotisserie or not, but she spent a lot of time working on it. Thank you, Grammy.
Thank you, Grammy. Appreciate it. Let's talk about the Sacramento Kings. Really rough road trip. I keep saying really rough. It really honestly wasn't. As I said, like, for them to pick up that win in Memphis is going to be big at the end of the season, but just not the play that you wanted to see. You know, they were hanging around in at least two of those games. Ended up pulling out the Memphis one, didn't pull out the Atlanta one. Their offense looks really night and day at home versus on the road. I have some numbers here: 123.9 points per game at home, 114 on the road. That's a pretty big difference. What are you seeing there, or are you seeing anything there that's making you feel like that there's a reason for that?
I mean, I think throughout sports, there's a thing called home field advantage, right? Or home court advantage. Right. And that's something that the Kings have benefited from this year as well. And a lot goes into that, kind of some things that take place on the floor and things take place off the floor. And last night I just kind of was noticing, and you're in a place like the Garden where they have some passionate fans,
right?
And they went on that run, and it was when Peyton Pritchard came in and Luke Cornett, guys that hadn't played the whole game, came in with fresh legs. They were playing a Kings team that has been on the road and seemed a little winded there. They completely took the Kings out of the game, and the crowd got really going. And we've seen that at Golden One Center, how hard it is to, as an opposing team, to stop that run and stop that momentum. And that's kind of what I saw in Atlanta as well. There's just momentum that is being built, and you have the crowd behind you, and the Kings just kind of start forcing shots, making decisions that aren't really decisions that they've been making over the course of that 7-game winning streak. And like you said, I think in that Celtics game, they completely abandoned their game plan, which was they're attacking the paint and doing a good job of it. I think Harrison Barnes had a couple of good takes early in the game, and Sabonis was the Kings' most efficient player on offense outside of Davion Mitchell, who had his offense going last night too. But they just started forcing shots, and the 3-point shooting hasn't been there.
Right. And
when you kind of lump that in, and with the fact that you're playing a tough crowd on a Friday night on Thanksgiving break, late start, by the way, 8 p.m. start in Boston. Yeah. So there's a lot going into effect there. But yeah, I mean, it kind of comes down to the home court advantage.
Right. And it really did feel like there was a cap on the rim for the entire road trip. There were so many shots, especially from Keegan Murray, who we'll talk about a little bit later, but just as far down as it can get in the rim and then just popping out. So just kind of felt like one of those trips where the Kings just absolutely didn't have it. I mentioned earlier in the show about the sloppy play and the amount of turnovers that they had. The Kings averaged 19 turnovers a game on this road trip. Just for some perspective, Houston leads the league in turnovers with 17.6. So the Kings were about a turnover and a half above the worst turnover team in the league, kind of adding to that point I made earlier about them playing the worst offense in the league after playing the best for that 7-game win streak. Did you feel like it was sloppy play, or are you kind of, is it a mixture of sloppiness and fatigue?
I think it was really very sloppy in the Memphis game. The Memphis game was a classic case of, and we've seen it a lot. The Kings have had inexperienced players over the past couple of years, and they basically get swarmed by opposing defenses. Right. And Memphis was picking up the Kings full court, and the Kings really had no way around it for a while. They had a couple of horrible plays that let Ja Morant get going, and some bad fouls too, and some of those were questionable too. There were some questionable calls.
Ja gets some whistles.
Ja gets some whistles. If you breathe on him, he's going to go to the line.
Right.
So especially if your breath is bad. Yeah. So yeah, but really, when you look at the numbers, the Kings they're 15th in the league in turnovers per game, and I'm not going to look at the last couple of games and say that is something that I'm really concerned about. Mm-hmm. I think that when you play teams like Atlanta, who they do have a deep team, the Celtics for sure, they're an NBA Finals contender. You lose those 2 games, and those are 2 teams that I noticed that were really putting pressure on the ball, unlike I've seen over the course of the past couple of games during that 7-game winning streak. And of course, the Kings played some teams during that winning streak that weren't contenders. The Detroit Pistons are not contenders, and kind of down the line. But it's going to come down to the Kings, who have more guys that have experience. They need to kind of take a step forward. And I think Mike Brown gave Harrison Barnes some credit in the Memphis game, that he used his experience, his veteran leadership to kind of lead and steer the Kings through that tough time in Memphis. Right. But it's something the Kings are going to have to work on, as they are kind of a respectable team. Like,
yeah,
not kind of.
They are. Again, no, absolutely.
I don't want the last 2 games to take away from the fact the Kings have won 7 of 9. It's incredible what we're seeing from this team this season. They're 10-8. They are, I think, 5th in the conference, 6th in the conference.
7th.
They dropped that far. Everything's so.
I mean, it's
everything's
so close. They're literally a half game back from 3rd place.
Yeah, I can't look at it and say that I'm concerned about. I mean, you want them to be more polished late in games. You need them to be more polished. and Mike Brown and staff, I'm sure, are going to go through a lot of late game scenarios, but it comes down to the offense. And then when you shoot 53% from the field, 38% from three over the 7-game winning streak, then you play the last two, you shoot 43 from the field, 26 from three. Yeah, there's going to be a drop off. And they had that game. It was there for the taking in Atlanta. I think they held the Hawks scoreless for 3 or 4 minutes.
Yep.
The game remained at 7.
Yep.
Last night in Boston, you are up by 6. You have Jason Tatum. You have Marcus Smart. You have Jaylen Brown, all with 4 fouls in the third quarter. Wheels fell off there. You let them go on a 35-4 run. So these are things that are bad, and it's unfortunate to see, but I'm encouraged overall.
Good. That kind of answers my next question. Frankie Cartoscelli, Sactown Sports Kings insider, joining me here. So would you consider this a success or a disappointing road trip?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's disappointing to lose 2 of 3, but the way that they lost these games, it wasn't like they were overmatched from the beginning, and they fell behind in both of these games big. But what is encouraging is they battled back in both of these games. They battled back and they were right there. And that's something that has not been the case over the past couple of seasons. I mean, as far as I've watched every game over the past 3 or 4 years. You at home, I'm sure you've seen the Kings when they go down big, it's over. It's done. That's not the case with the 2022-23 team. So I'm encouraged by the fact they came back and they made these games close. They were there for the taking, in my opinion. Both of them were. And it just kind of came down to late game execution, and the Kings, they faltered in both of them.
I completely agree with you. Like it hasn't felt that way in a long time, where it's like, yeah, they really aren't out of any game because they can go on these random 9-0 runs in a minute and a half. You know, Kevin Huerter hits a 3, Malik Monk hits 2 threes. They're right back in it. That's absolutely a testament to how dangerous this offense is, and why I feel like it is going to their offense is going to hold up throughout this season. Someone whose offense hasn't held up recently is Sacramento Kings rookie Keegan Murray. An absolutely brutal month of November for Keegan. Is it time for Mike Brown to maybe consider bringing him back off the bench?
It's a tough spot. I'm of the idea that I think you should let him work through it for a little bit longer. I think that he obviously has been going through a lot. We talk about the off the court stuff, and I don't want to get into a point where we're making excuses for Keegan. It's who has been struggling for. I'm looking at his last couple of games here. Over the past, 5 games, he's shooting 21% from the field, 9% from 3. Oof. He's averaging 5 points per game, and that's
you said 9%.
9% from 3. He is 2 for his last, I believe. Quick math, 19 or 20.
Boy,
19 math.
Boy.
No, it's I don't know if we can say rookie wall. I don't know if it's that far into the season where we can say he's hit a rookie wall. It's been 18 games, but I think that there's a possibility he loses some minutes. And when you see what KZ Okpala did last night, a guy that we envisioned coming into the season, that was what last night was. What we saw from KZ Okpala to begin the year as a starter, it didn't really seem like he was being impactful in any way. He was not really being an impactful defender. He was not really, for sure, not being an impactful scorer. And last night he did everything. He was rebounding the basketball. He knocked down a 3. Yep. He did a solid job on the defensive end. I think he was one of the reasons why Jason Tatum got into foul trouble, being a little too aggressive, had some offensive fouls called against him. So we're going to see him. I think we could see him play on Monday against the Suns. I think throwing him at Devin Booker isn't a bad idea, in my opinion. You might want to put him on Booker aside from Kevin Huerter. So, yeah, we could be seeing a little more KZ Okpala and a little less Keegan Murray, but I still think the way that Mike Brown's operated, it would be interesting to see if he went with Murray to the bench. But do you feel like it's time to put him?
I'm going to talk about it a little bit more in the next segment, but I definitely think that it's not a coincidence, or we shouldn't be surprised that if KZ gets inserted into the starting lineup next game, just because, I mean, he played 20 minutes in that Boston game. That's the most minutes he's played in a game all season. Keegan's been struggling. KZ has a good game. It just kind of feels like if you're ever going to do it, now would be kind of the easiest time to do it. But I completely agree with you that you do want Keegan to shoot through this right now. Like, you don't want to hurt his confidence any more than it already is, but man, oh man, he looks lost out there. And he's gotten 2 shots during that road trip, just sent to the third row.
Yeah.
It's been really, really tough to watch. And, I think everybody's rooting for him, and I think everybody feels the same that we don't, it's not with Jimmer Fredette or Ben McLemore or something like with a previous Kings rookie that was a shooter. it felt a lot more hopeless than it does with Keegan. With Keegan, it really does feel like he's going through a really cold stretch for whatever reason that is. But I still have confidence that eventually he's going to figure it out. It just doesn't seem like this is the Keegan Murray that we should come to expect. I do have to ask you this, Frank. The popular Sacramento Kings YouTube series, The Run, just dropped last night. For those who didn't see it or don't know what I'm talking about, The Run is pretty much a Hard Knocks-esque video series that the Sacramento Kings are doing on their YouTube channel, where they're progressively going through the season, showing all access inside video and stuff for a bunch of different things. They showed the locker room footage of after De'Aaron hit his game winner, XYZ. Something that they showed was a practice session, actually a post-practice session, where Coach Mike Brown walked all of the media members through their offense, correct? Or was it their defense?
Offense and defensive, kind of like what they're trying to do on both ends of the floor.
Right.
He said, if you guys put your cameras and your equipment aside, I want to walk you over and just give you an idea of what we are trying to do on the offensive end and the defensive end. And Jordy Fernandez, assistant coach Jordy Fernandez was there. Luke Lux was there, just kind of walk us through what they do. And it was a kind of like an unreal experience, almost like out of body.
Of course, it was the one day that I couldn't go to practice. I think I literally had that day off after not having a day off for like 7 days. And I was like, well, I'm not going to go to practice today.
Our days off fall on some unfortunate opportunities. Right. And I felt horrible for that. I really did. Because the basketball, like the aspect of it, you would have loved it.
I would have loved it. I try not to cry about it, honestly, once a week.
It felt like
I think about it and I'm just like.
Well, it was kind of like, it takes you back to when you played like high school ball or something. And you have your coaches walking you through something. And then you have to kind of like wake up and be like, oh, wait a minute. I'm like a 28-year-old. Right. This is Mike Brown and the Kings coaching staff. Right. But it was just so awesome just to have those guys walk us through everything. Because they said, you're the media. We want you to understand what we're trying to do so that when you see this or that, you're not like, what are they doing?
Right.
And, I'm not going to give out, obviously.
Right. You're not going to give the secrets. Right.
But it just kind of did give us a better understanding of what their goals are and what they're trying to do.
Definitely don't tell me any secrets or anything like that. But give me your one biggest takeaway from that practice.
I mean, it's just even the smallest things are some things like Mike Brown is watching at all times for that's why you see these quick timeouts. He knows where everybody's supposed to be on the floor at all times, always. Mm-hmm. And that goes with the offense and defensive side of things, and specifically defense. I know the defense has been one of the Kings' it's been a weak point, but
definitely not a strength.
It's not because it's not because of a lack of trying. Mike Brown, his attention to detail, when I learned from that it's impeccable. And that's why we see these quick timeouts, because even if the ball is at the top of the key, he's watching the post, he's watching the bottom of the key. He's watching guys that are slashing on cuts. He's watching everything at all times. And it's incredible that the man has two eyeballs. That's just kind of what I took away from it, because I feel like he has eyes everywhere.
Right.
But yeah, it just was an experience that I will never forget. It kind of made me wish that like we have a Kings media game though, because being on the court, everybody, I'm like, that's the next step. We should lace up.
Absolutely the next step. Mike, I know you're listening. I know Coach Brown is listening. He's a big fan of this show. Mike, let's get this media game going. Frankie Cartoscelli, Sactown Sports Kings Insider. I'm going to get you out on this. They play Phoenix on Monday, Indiana on Tuesday. What are you hoping to see?
A split would be great. I mean, I think that the most realistic thing for me is, and I think I look at the 7-game streak and say this team could be a not playing team. It could be a top 6 team. Mm-hmm. I feel that is a possibility with the way the West is kind of panning out, and we're a quarter of the way into the season now. It's not really it's not a 5-game sample size, so a split would be great. I mean, Phoenix is going to be tough. And then you have Tyrese Halliburton coming in on Wednesday, who's for sure going to try to go for a 30, 10, 20 triple double. Yep. So if you can split these two against teams that are playing very well, Phoenix, I think is the number 1 team.
They are the number 1 team in the West, 12-6.
And you get to play against a Pacers team that's also, I think, among the top 5 in the East. So
playing just as well as the Kings are.
Yeah, and the Kings are going to slash themselves. Mm-hmm. They've earned that respect in that regard. So give me a split.
You would rather win the Indiana game though, correct?
My eyes are on that one. Yeah, I think Monday, if the Kings can battle the way they battled against the Celtics, it's kind of a similar thing in my mind, like the similar opponents in my mind as far as the quality of opponent. If you can beat the Pacers, I think that'd be sweet for a lot of reasons. You have Domantas Sabonis playing against the Pacers too at home, so for the first time.
True.
So give me a split.
Would you rather? Which would have been worse if the Pistons won considering Dadley was sitting. I call him Dadley.
You and I were
Marvin
talking during the
Bagley's
game.
dad sitting courtside, or Tyrese and Buddy get on their return, pulling out a victory.
I would rather if the Kings had to lose a game, I think the Pacers would be easier to digest because I think Tyrese is more beloved in the fan base.
Absolutely.
But you and I were watching Marvin Bagley Sr. with his Pistons jacket. He was ready to just go.
Was, bro.
Like Patrick Beverly when on the Timberwolves.
Yes, I swear, if he would have won, I think he was ready to like
storm the court,
like T.O. like walk to center court and just like put the ball down or like rub his feet or matador it or something. I was absolutely ready for chaos.
He was ready.
He was definitely ready. He was like 3 seats down from Vivek. It was.
Did he ever sit courtside during the when he was Marvin was at the Kings? I don't think he ever sat courtside. Did he?
No, he definitely bought those seats. He absolutely purchased those seats just for that game.
You and I were talking though, and you said it. You said he's ready to go crazy if they win this game. So,
I was so ready, but it ended up being fine. We got the result.
Tyrese is beloved by the fan base. I think Buddy will get some cheers too, and it's a little easier to accept.
That's interesting.
But that being said,
Tyrese is absolutely going to get standing ovation. Buddy,
yes.
I think
Nate's in the corner shaking his head.
No. Kyle, what do you think? No, you think? Yeah, I think it's going to be some boos, definitely mixed in with some cheers, but definitely I think you're going to hear some boos. I think on Wednesday. Frankie Cartoscelli, Sactown Sports Kings Insider. You can read his stuff at SactownSports.com. You can read his post game takeaways after every single Sacramento Kings game. Frankie, thank you so much for joining me, my man.
Christopher, thank you.
Anytime. Coming up, we're going to take a look and hear some words from a NBA superstar that the Kings could be acquiring. Hear that next.
I switched to Boost Mobile and got this free Samsung Galaxy A23 5G phone.
Why do you think they call it the Galaxy?
Maybe because the Samsung Galaxy A23 has a huge screen, and galaxies are huge gravitationally bound systems of stars rotating around a supermassive black hole.
And the phone is free?
When you switch to Boost Mobile.
Cool. You lost me at gravitationally bound.
Switch to Boost and get a free Samsung Galaxy A23 5G phone. Boost Mobile. Unleash your power. Limited time offer while supplies last. New customers only. Excludes tax. One device offer per line. Only available on certain networks. 5G not available everywhere. Additional restrictions apply. See your local Boost Mobile store for details.
Life is full of choices. When buying a car, there's only one choice. Northern California's #1 Honda dealer, Stockton Honda. Choose from our great selection and get top dollar for your trade. Pre-order today in person, online, over the phone, with no contract and no deposit necessary. Then simply pick it up when it arrives.
Anytime, anywhere, it's all here. StocktonHonda.com.
What's up? We're talking to Chad Hoblet of Hoblet Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Woodland. Chad, what's going on for Chrysler's Black Friday sales event?
Right now, save up to $10,000 off MSRP on new 2022 Ram 1500 Bighorn Crew Cabs with 2.9% financing for 72 months and no payments for 90 days. Plus, we have some starting as low as $36,999.
Wow, that really is some Black Friday savings.
Oh, I'm not done yet. You can also get up to $6,000 off MSRP on new 2022 Ram 1500 Laramie Crew Cabs with no payments for 90 days as well. Plus, we have over 60 in stock.
The savings won't last long, so stop by the Hoblet Ram Truck Center off County Road 102 and I-5 in Woodland, or search Select and Save at HobletDodge.com. Best prices, best selection, period.
10,000 total net savings after 5,500 factory rebates and 4,500 dealer discounts. Rebates may include $1,000 Chrysler Captive bonus cash. Must finance with Chrysler Captive qualify, and $1,000 Hoblet Ram coupons only while supplies last. Special 2.9% APR and proof credit through Chrysler Captive. Must have 700 plus credit score to qualify. $15.16 per $1,000 borrowed. $36,999 net price. Sample VIN 350824. 6,000 total net savings after $1,000 factory rebates and 5,000 dealer discounts. Rebates may include $1,000 Hoblet Ram coupons only while supplies last. 5 at each net savings. See dealer for details.
Life is uncertain. It's okay to feel stressed, anxious, worried, or frustrated. It's normal. With CalHope's free and secure mental health resources, it's easy to get the help you and your loved ones need when you need it the most. Call our warm line at 833-317-4673 or live chat at calhope.org today.
NBAstore.com, the official online store of the NBA and the world's largest selection of officially licensed NBA fan gear. With unique designs by Fanatics, Nike, and all the latest styles for every NBA team. plus one-of-a-kind products and authentic collectibles. Shop now and get today's special offer. NBAstore.com, a Fanatics experience.
Kings Weekly with Chris Watkins on Sactown Sports.
Kings Weekly, Sactown Sports 1140. Big thanks to Frankie Cartoscelli, who joined me last segment. Sass in the Sactown Sports 1140 YouTube channel says, "Boo Buddy Light, cheer Hallie." That's what I expect. I definitely expect a sprinkling of boos for Buddy. Definitely some cheers. I mean, let's not forget Buddy. Buddy was always like an incredible vibe. That guy was like just always smiling, always happy, always cracking jokes. His teammates absolutely love him off the court. I don't know on the court how they felt about a lot of the time in post-game press conferences, they would always mention the quote unquote my bad guy. As in the person who would always on defensive assignments, instead of getting better or doing what they were supposed to be doing, just constantly saying my bad. Lot of speculation that my bad person was Buddy Hield. And I don't think we have heard the my bad guy since Buddy's departure. But Buddy was fun. Again, Buddy had some great moments. He's the Kings. I believe he's the franchise record holder for most threes made in a Sacramento Kings uniform. So he's absolutely had his fair share of moments for the Sacramento Kings. I'll never forget in one of his first games for the Kings, that road game against the Clippers where he hit a three, stole the inbounds pass, ran to the 3-point line, hit another one. That was, Buddy was really that kind of the first new age, new era 3-point shooter that the Kings had. They were, stuck in those Jimmer Fredette. Ben McLemore was our best shooter probably for a couple of years there. Nick Stauskas obviously was supposed to be a shooter and was not. But once they got Buddy, it was like, oh, okay, so this is what the guys down in Golden State are doing. They're hitting threes at a crazy level, and it was unfortunate that I think Buddy could have been a good piece if he had more shooters around him. But unfortunately, in his time here in Sacramento, he was pretty much our primary shooter, and there really wasn't. HB was probably our second best shooter, and then once Buddy left, it was very, very clear that this team needed to address shooting, and that's absolutely what Monty McNair did. He picked up Malik Monk in the offseason. We've seen Malik be an explosive scorer, a incredible shot creator, and just an explosive 3-point shooter, as well as Kevin Huerter, who has played out of his mind to start this season. He started to cool down, but we see the electricity of Kevin Huerter's game. And somebody else who Monty McNair brought in to address the shooting issues was their rookie, Keegan Murray. And we talked with Frank about it in that last segment. I asked him if he felt it might be time for Coach Brown to take a look at KZ Okpala maybe being reinserted into the starting lineup. And I think it might be time. I do. It's not. Frank brought up a great point when I asked him. He said, you don't want to, you want him to shoot through it. You want him to continue to get opportunities. And I absolutely agree with that. And I mentioned that when he said that. But I think you can still get your opportunities off the bench. When he only played 2 games off the bench to start this season before being inserted into the starting lineup, in those 2 games, he averaged 17.5 points, 54% from the field, 43% from 3. He was much better. And, he also strung together a couple good games in the starting lineup once he got inserted. But I just think at this moment in time right now, what Keegan needs is simplification. I think it's really tough on him in that starting lineup, trying to figure out where he's going to get his shots, when he's going to get his shots, with Kevin Huerter being the main guy that they're running things for on the perimeter. I think he would just fare a lot better on the bench, where he can really, on the bench, we need another scorer. We have Malik who's played really well. Davion has also played well offensively these past couple games. Terrence Davis has kind of slowed down since that Brooklyn game. But yeah, I think Keegan, it might be time, and he's got, like I said when talking with Frank, he's got to shoot through it. It's the only way he's going to get over this hump is by remaining confident, pulling from three, and eventually that thing's going to fall as he hit a three towards the end of last night's game in Boston. It was good to see one finally go in for him, but Keegan's absolutely got to step up, and I think he knows that. I think Mike knows that, and I think that they're gonna handle it well. And I'm not afraid of Keegan Murray losing too much confidence. I think it's tough to not feel a little down on yourself after the way that Keegan has performed, but I don't think the Kings are going to give up on him anytime soon, and I absolutely expect him to kind of shake this rust off and figure things out slowly. It was almost too good from the jump. We were seeing too good of stuff, but that's enough on that. Keegan has really struggled. I should mention this in the month of November. He 11 games played in the month of November, 7.1 points per game, 31% from the field, 26% from three in the month of November. Just a brutal stretch of games, and you hope to see Keegan shake out of it pretty soon. But I want to get to this. This is I hosted our afternoon show, Cattles and Rami, on Tuesday afternoon, and that's when this news, or I shouldn't say news, this audio dropped that morning of superstar, possibly the greatest scoring forward of all time, Kevin Durant, had this to say about our Sacramento Kings roster.
First of all, you can't really switch anybody on to Sabonis because he's too strong.
Yeah.
So that throws off a lot of your defense as well. When you want to keep your matchup. So now you got to chase off Kevin Huerter. Kevin Huerter right now,
Red Velvet.
He playing like Clay Steph, like the way he coming off the handoffs and shooting a basketball right now. If you're not a basketball fan and locked in on the league, you got to watch how Kevin Huerter is shooting this ball right now. He in the 50s. And then you got De'Aaron Fox coming down that hill at you all game. Harrison Barnes, who can get a bucket on anybody in an isolation situation. And Keegan Murray, like he playing like Michael Porter Jr. the way he at 6'9", catching and shooting like that. And then you got off the bench. Terrence Davis had 30 on.
Jesus, they shot the hell out of the ball.
They shot the out of the ball. But you got guys that can shoot it, that can get hot. Malik Monk. Trey Lyles, even a good bench piece.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That too can shoot it from the big. So they got a deep team.
Wow. How about those comments from Kevin Durant? Love to hear things like that from somebody who truly loves ball. I mean, you can hear it in his voice. He is like, Kevin Durant loves basketball. He loves the game of basketball. He truly does really, really care and live and die by this. Went up and down the Kings roster with praise. Very, very interesting stuff. Kevin Huerter. Oh, Kevin Huerter. Kevin Huerter. That is fantastic stuff from KD. Love to hear him have that kind of praise for this team. Again, you're not going to get a top 10, 15, 20 player of all time waxing poetic about your roster like that very often. Kevin Huerter. But it makes you think. Kevin Durant, like, you don't just make those comments, really. Like, you're just feeling generous to Sacramento. You just want to make us feel all good about our team and stuff. How nice of you, Kevin. It makes you think. And it also made, I don't know what you would call him. Kings fans are not a fan of Bill Simmons at all. But Bill Simmons had this to say about a potential Kings KD link-up.
Sacramento has 2023 and 2027 firsts. They have as assets Barnes expiring 18.3, Davis, Lynn, and Lyles. That could get them to another 10. They have the Holmes contract. Holmes has kind of fallen out of the rotation. He's 11, 12, 13. And if they really wanted to get frisky, Murray and Mitchell. Is this a stealth KD team or am I crazy?
I don't think you're crazy. I mean, all these teams are stealth KD teams, I suppose. Especially if he wants to be moved.
But I think the Kings are for real. I do. I think the offensively, even though it's not going to be at this level, I think a lot of what they do is sustainable because you mentioned like the Sabonis Fox thing really works. And I think Murray's going to get better as the year goes along. And I think they're good at home. I think that matters. How many teams have a good home court? Like you watch Miami, and Miami's home court is so depressing. I feel like it's like counter productive, right? You go around the league, like Houston, same thing. Sacramento, like those fans are like ready to roll. They show up and they're loud. So I don't know. There's an energy with them that I like.
That is Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons podcast. That's interesting. He lays it out there, contracts, how it would work, some firsts, Rashawn Holmes, Harrison Barnes, possibly Keegan Murray thrown in as well. For Kevin Durant, I think he had a guest Haralabob Vulgaris on there who formerly used to work with the Dallas Mavericks before he was unceremoniously thrown out. Haralabob kind of made a funny point there of, I think everyone is kind of a sneaky KD team. Like I'm pretty sure if asked, 29 teams would say, yeah, I'll try and work out a Kevin Durant trade. Is it realistic? Probably not. I have a tough time imagining a world where the Kings just kind of stumble upon, I guess it wouldn't be stumbling, but just acquire a top 20 all-time player. It's just not something that has happened before in this league. So I guess until that day happens, I just won't believe, because it just doesn't seem like something that's realistic. But boy, oh boy, if I can pretend for a minute here, let's add Kevin Durant to this team. So we got De'Aaron Fox. We'll start Herter.
Kevin
Herter. That's right. Two Kevins. Kevin Herter, KD. Does Kevin play the 4? Does he play the 3? If you trade HB and Keegan, you're kind of really hamstringing yourself there, but something tells me KD will more than make up for it. So maybe you throw Fox, Monk, Herter, Kevin Herter, KD, and Sabonis out there. That'll do. I mean, that's Fox. At this point, De'Aaron Fox is no longer the first person mentioned in that list anymore. Actually, Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is the head of the snake at that point. The Kings will go as far as Kevin Durant takes them. Does that make them a finals contender at that point? I mean, if you acquire Kevin Durant, you're definitely shooting for the stars at that point. The Kings, Kevin Durant is pushing the back half of his career here. He's on the back 9. It's by no means a future decision. That is, you're trying to win the championship in the next 2-3 years with one of the greatest players of all time. And that's just not something that we've seen the Kings do. I mean, I am intrigued for sure. Color me intrigued, but I cannot see it happening. I just don't think at the end of the day too, is that going to be the best for Brooklyn? I don't know what Keegan, unless they're really, really high on Keegan, and for whatever reason they feel like, I mean, Kings first round draft pick should be worth twice its weight in gold, because just historically how the Kings drafts have played out, you're probably going to get a top 10 pick. So it's a pretty good bet to make, especially if you're taking the Kings depth and replacing it with a 34, 35-year-old guy who is coming off a couple lower body injuries and is 7 feet tall and, is just getting older by the day. So it wouldn't be a bad risk for Brooklyn. I don't know what Keegan Murray, Harrison Barnes, Rashawn Holmes, and a first round or 2 first round picks does for Brooklyn in the immediate. I don't know if, I don't think that they would feel like Kyrie and those guys would be good enough to take a championship. But just interesting stuff. Thought we had to at least mention that on today's show. Coming up, we're going to look ahead to the next week of Kings basketball. Play Phoenix, play Indiana, and play the Clippers. We'll talk about more of that on the other side of the break. This is Kings Weekly on Sactown Sports 1140.
Live and past broadcasts of the Carmichael Dave Show with Jason Ross and Cattles and Rami.
Interviews, podcasts, and more.
They all live on the Sactown Sports 1140 app.
Biggest TVs to overcompensate for theirs at home. This is the Lodge mentality. This is Twin Peaks.
Are you a fan of Twin Peaks? Sign up for our e-club and stay up to date on all things Twin Peaks and score free stuff. Signing up is easy. Just visit twinpeaksrestaurant.com/peaks-club to get started today.
Okay, so you're going to propose. Do you have an idea of what ring she wants? You should, because the ring isn't just for her. It's for her mom, her friends on social, people that stalk her on social, her ex, her boss, her arch rival from high school, your ex, and so many more. It's also for life. So if you're planning to propose this Christmas or New Year's, come to Sharif Jewelers for the largest selection of wedding sets and engagement rings in the Sacramento area. To make it easier, all purchases over $2,000 between now and the new year are eligible for our up to 5-year no-interest financing.
Remember, you don't have to be rich and famous to shop at Sharif's.
My mother owned Christmas. Well, not in a literal sense, of course, but she had an extraordinary way of making sure the holiday was perfect for her family. Hi, I'm Frank LaRosa for Naturewood Home Furnishings. I'll never forget my daughter's first Christmas when every present under the tree was for my mother's first granddaughter, while the rest of us had to look in the spare bedroom for our gifts. Now, those memories always bring a smile to my face. My mother always taught, have a bit of Christmas in my home every day of the year. That could be a tiny happy Santa bauble, a sparkling memento on the wall, or a comfortable rocking chair. Naturewood Home Furnishings will help you find the perfect accent piece for every room in your home during their annual holiday sale, including unique mirrors, clocks, wall art, rugs, chairside tables, curios, accent chairs, recliners, lamps, and more. You'll find that perfect bit of Christmas for your home. The memories you make with your family will be with you forever. Naturewood Home Furnishings, off Highway 50 at Hazel. Look for the water wheel.
It's Carmichael Day for my good friend Shelby and everybody over at RefinanceWithShelby.com. Home equity is the best way for you to build up and pass on wealth. The Equity Builder program happening right now gives first-time home buyers a head start on this with immediate equity in the home via a loan of up to 10% of the purchase price. Now, here's the deal. The loan is completely forgiven if you live in the house as your primary residence for 5 years. Think about that. A $450,000 home, you make about 80 grand. You get 45 grand down as part of the Equity Builder program, and you live in the home for 5 years, boom, the loan is gone. You got to be a first-time home buyer. You got to occupy the property as your primary residence. That's about it. Couple of other things, and you're good to go. That's it. Go to RefinanceWithShelby.com. It's a no-brainer. It's the best way to get into this market. RefinanceWithShelby.com. NMLS number 279051. BRE number 01864354.
Tune in every Wednesday to the Carmichael Day with Jason Ross Show for Wine Wednesday, where they whine about plays, calls, everything from the past week in sports. Wine Wednesday, brought to you by E2 Family Winery.
It's hard to find a better selection of 4x4s in stock and ready to drive home today than you'll find at M&S Auto on El Camino right off the Cap City Freeway. New truck prices keep rising. M&S invites you to tour their selection of super clean 4x4s and trucks and save thousands. Tacomas, F-150s, Jeeps, Rams, Silverados. Great deals today on hundreds of 4x4s, SUVs, and muscle cars. First-time buyers are welcome. M&S Auto Sales, El Camino, just off the Cap City Freeway. MSAutogroup.com.
Are pro football scores your thing? Well, Lasher's Elk Grove Dodge Chrysler Jeep Rams Big Guy Vince Bloom and Sactown Sports will pick 5 games to compare. Win a weekly Twin Peaks gift card and a chance at $50,000 at the Hard Rock Casino Resort at season's end. Visit the Sactown Sports website for details.
Once upon a time, our family had trouble with pests around our home. Did you know that stinging insects send tons of people to the hospital? And teeny ticks and mosquitoes can be all around the yard. Their bites can make people and their pets sick. Mice, rats, and roaches need food and water just like us. You do not want them to visit. They can spread disease and make it hard to breathe. I'm sure glad this story has a happy ending.
Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org. A public service message from the National Pest Management Association.
Kings Weekly with Chris Watkins
on Sactown Sports.
Final segment here on Kings Weekly. Thank you for joining us. Chris Watkins here. We're going to look ahead, as we do in the final segment every week, to the Kings' schedule for the week. They play on Monday, the Phoenix Suns at 7 o'clock. The Phoenix Suns are the number 1 seed in the Western Conference right now at 12-6. They're 2-5 on the road, so hopefully the Kings can take advantage of that. Phoenix is 10-1 at home, so thankfully this one is going to be at Golden One Center. Hopefully, like I said, they can take advantage of that one on Wednesday. Wednesday is the most anticipated game, as I'm going to spoil a lot of this segment, but the Indiana game is going to be electric. I mean, I think so many people are going to be excited to see Tyrese Halliburton return. Buddy Hield, you throw that little sprinkle in. Domantas Sabonis playing against his old team. I think both teams are going to be incredibly energized for that one as they know what's at stake. They know that if the Kings win that one, Pacers fans or I'm sorry, if the Kings win that one, Kings fans are going to be boasting about the Sabonis trade and how, oh, you guys got swindled, blah, 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 blah. Same with the Pacer fans. If the Pacers win, they're going to be all excited. They're going to say, I can't believe y'all gave us Tyrese Halliburton, Buddy Hield, and we have a better record than you guys. And you got Domantas Sabonis. It's crazy. It's almost like both teams can't win a trade. But without further ado, also, I should mention on Saturday, there is a game against the Los Angeles Clippers in Los Angeles. That game will tip off at 1 o'clock. That should be a good one as well. The Kings had a good game against the Pistons, the Clippers earlier this year. They fell short. That was part of their 0-4 start. And yeah, we'll see. Let's go on to Game of the Week.
Here's Kings Weekly's Game of the Week.
Sorry, as everyone sees me on the YouTube here, I'm trying to fix Scott Pollard. He keeps falling off his ledge. Game of the week. As I said, I kind of spoiled it right there, but it's the Indiana game. I mean, the storyline is obvious. Tyrese Halliburton making his return to Sacramento. Buddy Hield making his return to Sacramento. Domantas Sabonis playing his former team in the Indiana Pacers. It's going to be a fun one. The Pacers are playing great basketball, which is a huge surprise. I think a lot of people, myself included, expected that team to be in the bottom of the NBA in terms of standings, but they have absolutely came together and played great basketball so far this season. Tyrese Halliburton is leading the NBA in assists. Buddy Hield has played really well for them. Miles Turner did not get traded this offseason. He's played great. And then their rookie, Benedict Mathurin, the number 5 pick in this year's NBA draft, immediately following the Sacramento Kings selection of Keegan Murray. That's an additional storyline on top of that. Should be an absolute blast at Golden One Center. So expecting some fun things out of that one. Let's move on to storyline.
Here's Kings Weekly's top storyline.
The return of Tyrese Halliburton absolutely is the top storyline. The trade to this day, in the words of Deontay Wilder, is heavily scrutinized. It's heavily talked about, debated. I think it's funny that we live in a world where apparently both sides can't win a trade, because that's absolutely what it feels like. I think Indiana is more than happy with what they got. I think the start of the season has showed Kings fans that they should be happy with what they have, and we should just, wash our hands of it, call it a day, and just accept the fact that, we didn't have to give it. Thankfully, no first round picks or anything were exchanged. And so we don't have to worry about results. Really. It's more just about how the team is fitting with their new players. And I think shout out Tyrese. He needed this more expanded role to really show his game. I think it was tough, not only for De'Aaron, who we've talked countlessly about his struggles playing next to Tyrese, but Tyrese absolutely struggled to find his game with De'Aaron. Tyrese these days is putting up 20-10 like it's nothing. And he just didn't have the ball in his hand. He didn't have that kind of opportunity here in Sacramento because of the split with him and De'Aaron Fox. And it hurt both of them. And so I think they're both better off by themselves. They're both better off in the situations they're in. And I think they're both happy about it. So I'm absolutely looking at the return of Tyrese Halliburton as the biggest thing that we're going to talk about this week, because it's going to be a blast when he comes back, and you absolutely know he's going to put on a show. So very much expecting that one. Let's move on to matchup of the week.
It's Kings Weekly's matchup to watch.
Have I mentioned that the Sacramento Kings play the Indiana Pacers? Because this matchup of the week is going to be from that game. I am so excited about this game. It's going to be Tyrese Halliburton against De'Aaron Fox. Absolutely. I mean, you look at the other matchups, I guess you could say, De'Aaron versus Devin Booker, two Kentucky guys, two guys who are trying to, lift their team in the Western Conference. Maybe Kevin Huerter against Devin Booker, two elite shooters. DeAndre Ayton versus Sabonis. Paul George versus Harrison Barnes. These are all options, but let's not lie to ourselves here. The matchup that we all want to see is De'Aaron Fox, who has been out of his mind to start this season, against Tyrese Halliburton, who was out of his mind to start this season. And obviously the backstory going into it, he couldn't play with him, he couldn't play with him. They're both better off without each other, but who is the individually better player? I think I've heard a lot of people say that they should have traded De'Aaron Fox and not Tyrese Halliburton. And whether or not that's true or not doesn't really matter, because I think the fact is Indiana wanted Tyrese Halliburton. They didn't want De'Aaron's contract, not because De'Aaron Fox isn't a good player, but I think it had a lot more to do with his financial standing. I mean, De'Aaron was getting paid a supermax, while Tyrese doesn't have to get a contract extension for another 2 years. Right? It might be next year. So that's a lot more appealing for Indiana. And, both players are playing incredibly well, like I said, but it's going to, those two are going to have a couple moments where they're nose to nose, face to face, and the crowd is going to get behind it. And I'm looking forward to that so much. I think Tyrese is going to have a big night. He's absolutely going to feel fired up. I expect him to try and score a lot of points, absolutely try and dish the ball. He's averaged 10 assists per game this season. I expect a 20-10 performance out of Tyrese Halliburton and De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox is that guy. So De'Aaron Fox can't let it be Tyrese's night. I expect a 30-piece out of De'Aaron Fox. I expect a huge highlight play, and I expect them to kind of talk. I really do. I think Tyrese and De'Aaron are good friends. I think they both know how fans are going to react to this. I think they know a lot of people are going to be watching out for this matchup. Something tells me that those two are going to exchange some words in a friendly way. I don't think that there is much, anger between the two, but I could definitely see both of them having some fun with that matchup. So looking forward to that one. Let's get on to predictions to close this out.
It's time for Kings Weekly's predictions.
I've been pretty good my past couple weeks at predicting how the week is going to go. This week, I don't feel as confident. This is a tough week. Phoenix, especially with how the Kings have played on this road trip, it's tough to predict how they're going to play moving forward. But like I said earlier in the show, I think Mike Brown, who's always trying to stay on the up, stay on the positive, these speed bumps were going to happen. It's about how you respond. Well, this Phoenix game is a perfect game to show how you're going to respond. This is another incredibly tough matchup. You just got through one with Boston. This game's going to be a whole lot similar where Phoenix, it might even be harder to stay in this game because Phoenix is such a good defensive team. They're gonna make it tough for the Kings at home, and they're trying to, they're trying to extend their lead in this Western Conference just as much as the Kings are. I think that's gonna be a tough one. Indiana, as I stated, I think I've talked about the Indiana game enough this segment, but I expect the Kings to take that one, and then the Clipper game. I think they can take one from the Clippers. I was the only reason why the Clippers beat the Kings at home to start the season was because Paul George went crazy. He had a 40-piece, if I'm not mistaken, in that second game of the season. And even then, it was a close game. So as long as the Kings can stop Paul George from getting a 40-piece, I feel good about it. I feel good about that game. I still think the Kings go 1-2. I have 1-2 for the week. I think it's going to be a lot more road bumps that this team is going to have to figure out how to come out on the other side and kind of reestablish the identity that they had during that 7-game win streak. They showed the league what they're capable of. People are going to naturally adjust to what you're doing. They're going to figure it out. They're going to figure out how to slow you down and make you do things you don't want to do. I think the Kings are going to tighten it up. But it's not before they're going to take some lumps first, and I think that they'll find themselves on the other side of the rainbow at some point. But I think it's going to be a tough week for them until this schedule lightens up a little bit later in the month of December. And that's all we got. That's all we got for today's show. Thank you, Frankie Cartoscelli, for joining me. Thank you, Nate, for setting up Frank's camera. It looked great. Make sure to check us out on the YouTube stream for archived episodes. Kyle, thank you so much as always on the other side of the glass. My name is Chris Watkins. Go Kings. This is Kings Weekly on Sactown Sports 1140.
Kings insiders Frankie Cartoscelli and Chris Watkins give you all things Kings on the return of the Roar podcast.
With these two sitting next to me now, certainly feel comforted.
You can sign up for free at SactownSports.com.
Ryan Radke here from Sunday Night Football on Westwood One. Join me and Mike Golick for NFC action from Philadelphia when the Eagles host the Packers. Jalen Hurts and the 9-1 Eagles pulled off a come-from-behind win last week and have the best record in the league. Now they'll face Aaron Rodgers and a Green Bay team desperate for a win. Don't miss any of the action. Packers at the Eagles on Sunday Night Football.
Get ready for the game with more details and preview at Westwood One Sports.